Good evening, folks. It is 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the Southport Planning Board regular meeting to order for May 2024. I ask that everyone please silence or turn off your cell phones. I'm going to note that our member, Dick Sloan, is absent tonight for health reasons. We continue to send Dick and his wife, Diane, our well wishes and hope for his speedy return to this end of the table. And member Chris Jones is away for family obligations. Let's start, as always, by removing any hats, and those who can and will, please stand while Donnie Joyner offers our invocation, and we'll follow with our allegiance to flag.
Let us pray. All wise and almighty God, is once again we'd like to say thank you. Thank you, for allowing some of your sons and daughters together here in the beautiful city of Southport to conduct business of the planning board. Father, we ask that you give us the wisdom and guidance to make the correct decision. And when this meeting is over, we ask that you send your guardian angels back with each and every one of us to our loved ones. These are all blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, agenda item D, folks, is the approval of our minutes for our April 18 meeting. You received these in advance of this meeting, and they're on pages 3 through 6 of your packet. Are there any changes or corrections to those? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve those minutes as prepared? Thank you, Donnie. And a second? Thank you, Will. Motion is on the floor. Any final discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. That motion passes unanimously. Item E is the approval of our agenda for this evening. This was also issued in advance of the meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to it? Do I hear a motion then that we approve our agenda for this evening? Thank you, Will. And a second? Thank you, Donnie. There is a motion on the floor. Any final discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item F is public comment. Do I hear a motion to move into public comment? So moved. Thank you, Will. And a second, thank you. Motion is on the floor. Any final discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for those motions and seconds. Madam Deputy Clerk, are there any names to be called for anyone who wishes to speak tonight?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone emailed any comments in for us?
No, ma'am.
Golly. Nobody likes us tonight either. Okay. All right then. Do I hear a motion that we end public comment? Will, thank you. And a second? Second. Thank you. Appreciate that. Motion is on the floor. Any final discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Another unanimous vote. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving into item G, old business. Item G1, the text amendment for section 3.19, signs. Mo, we're going to review the memo in our packets. Started on page 7, I believe, and then we'll get into general discussion. Mo, take it away.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And as promised, I have provided a hard copy of the up-to-date amendment that was dated May 10th. I'm not sure how the February draft got in your packets, but we have it. So if you would, sir, please take one of that. So yes, this is a text amendment that was brought forward by the planning board, And the sign committee, consisting of Chair Hodgen, Mr. Fisk, and Mr. Laughlin, met on May 9th to review 4 items that you had requested that they take further consideration on. So I'll review those 4, and then we have some other items of discussion that the board would need to consider. So the first item is going to be found. It's going to be number C18, political signs. And this is allowing 1 sign per candidate per lot. So the new language states on private property, 1 sign per candidate shall be permitted per lot. So that is the one change that requested for that one. The next one was the light source color temperature was windows were added to the outdoor lighting. So the windows and outdoor lighting shall not exceed 3,000 degrees Kelvin. And originally it was just the outdoor lighting. This was added for the window treatments and displays. There are string lights around the windows at times when it's not the holiday season, or if there were, just lights as part of the display of a window at a business that would be coming out and projecting into the right-of-way. So that would help cover that for the light color and temperature for that. The next item was prohibiting neon, argon, and gas tubing, and they asked that we include the LED lights that resemble neon. So the new language now says neon, argon, other gas tube, or light-emitting diodes with the appearance of neon, lighting or signage shall be prohibited on exterior walls or placed in the interior window. So the interior window addition is one other of the prohibitions that is added to this section. So those are those first 3. The last 4 that we were asked to look at as the committee was reviewing was the murals. This section was really just an updated where the text was reorganized some from the original mural section from the April submittal. And then Mr. Laughlin had reorganized and then added some detailed maintenance standards to that so that we've got the materials, so it would be non-reflective, neon or fluorescent, and the paint shall be of high quality and weatherproofed. The color scheme must be harmonious with the area and blend with the historical colors of the community, and they are to be aesthetically appropriate for the historic districts. And then the theme of the mural should promote the greater community, including the historic and regional factors, and be compatible in design with the character of Southport. So those were the 4 items that were requested to take back to the committee. So we have one more point of discussion that we need to have. The April meeting, there were open signs that were discussed, neon open signs. So the planning board, you asked that the committee discuss this and consider options and considerations for open signs that use neon or neon-like lighting. There was not a consensus by the committee, so they wanted to bring it back to the full board for discussion and a vote on how you would want to move forward with this language, or if there's something different to consider. So the 2 options that were brought up at the meeting, at the committee meeting, is 1, follow the ordinance as proposed, no exceptions. Prohibit all neon and neon-like signs, and that would include the open signs. The second option is include an open sign exception. So it would allow open signs that have the neon or neon-like lighting with a size limit, but it would be only within the business district or the highway commercial. So it would no longer be allowed in the central business district, but in the business district and highway commercial, you would allow to have those open signs. So I will leave it at that and let you have a discussion, and then we'll see how you would like staff to proceed with those.
Now, let me ask you, Mo, just for clarification for everyone, what's decided, whether it's tonight or moving forward, whatever goes forward, the signs that are there let's clarify that. They stay, is that correct? Want everybody to understand that we're talking about that too, whether that,
That could be your decision, whether you choose to have a
Exactly.
6-month period or you consider them non-conforming, and at the time that they would quit using that sign or that sign would not work, then they would have to come into conformity with the ordinance.
gotcha, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, folks, what's your pleasure? What do we need clarification on? State your case.
Personally, I don't see neon as so terrible. I mean, if they're not big obtrusive signs, and the 7 by 18, do we know what size those signs are? Because I think that 7 inches would limit a lot of signs.
So there were some different sizes that were brought up. The ones that I have on this, I know it's kind of hard to see the representation, but in doing research, the most popular signs were going to be the 9 by 16, and then the 10 by 19 or 10 by 20, and then the larger signs are going to be your 12 by 24. So that when I was looking through and seeing the average sizes, those two smaller ones, the 9 by 16 or the 10 by 19 or 10 by 20 would be the most
So the
One.
7 by 18 option would pretty much rule out most of those signs, is that right?
for those larger ones. And full transparency, I did not go through town and measure everyone's sign.
No, I know.
I know that there are some smaller ones around, so we could use the 7 by 18. I know that was brought up at the last meeting. I don't know one that size to use as an example.
So this would just allow an open sign to be neon. Another sign that met those dimensions wouldn't be allowed.
That's correct. This would only be for open signs.
Well, I can understand not wanting a big blaring neon sign, but a small neon sign that does, it may be more than open, to me is not a problem.
So I think this is meant to be proactive. If one were to ride through town, there's some examples or example of things that would be outside of these parameters we're talking about by a lot. And I think the whole idea is to preserve the business corridor's character. And I know from inspection, to me, it's more the norm that businesses have these neon open signs. And I think it's kind of a way of life, and to upset that, I don't see any reason to do it. But if we put a limit, square inches on a sign, whether it's the larger one or the medium, however they want to do it, as long as it meets those square inches. So, and then I know in the CBD, there are also open signs and then more neon there, but I think it can get out of control. And so the stuff in the central business district could stay, likewise in the business district, but just preventing it from getting out of hand in the future seems like a good idea to me. And so I'm in favor of something like this with just a square inches limitation.
Well, first, Fred and Scott, everyone has preferences, and based on our experiences, and in looking at what we should do with regard to this type of signage, yeah, you have to I'm going to put away my preferences and just think about what is best for the community in the image we want to project as far as a coastal town. If you look at the theme, you go online and you look at what the theme of the city says, It says a little slice of heaven, stunning scenery, maritime heritage. Neon signs have nothing to do with any of that. Now, the fact it's been allowed does not set a precedent for continuing it, if it's not the right thing for the overall image of this town with the growth and the changes that we have had. Now, whether or not preserve the business character, I don't think the business character, as you enter Southport and come down past Walmart and a lot of those businesses, that's not the type of preservation that you want to associate with a town like Southport. It was allowed to exist. There was not a good comprehensive plan, but we can change little things. If you look at the Main Street program, which is really in charge of all the preservation of small towns, they believe that signage has the biggest impact on the vitality of a town, and that less signs does not mean less economic growth. They call it streetscape. And as far as being the norm, as far as Southport, going out to Walmart, coming back, I spent the time to go to every business, and out of 200, and I think 11 businesses, 39 have neon open signs. That's 19%. So that's certainly not the norm. The majority of businesses don't have it. And then you ask yourselves, well, what's the detriment to the business? How does not having an open sign affect them? Well, I've handed out examples of open signs that are not neon that many successful businesses have in Southport that can be used anywhere. There are reasonable alternatives that let the public know a business is open. And I think if there's reasonable alternatives that are more aesthetically pleasing to promoting the quaintness, the village atmosphere of Southport, we have the opportunity to do it. We're kind of like at the gates. We're guarding the gates of trying to ensure what's aesthetically pleasing, because there's nothing aesthetically pleasing about neon lights. It just isn't. It's something that came up that was popular because it was cheap. And then people get in the mind. No one likes to change. People that have used lights of a certain type don't like change. But there was an article in the Main Street by a fellow that's in charge of the urban development and Main Street program, and he put forth an article, and he said that a good sign code is pro-business because an attractive business district will attract more customers. And they've done what they call studies of visual perception. And in those studies, they have shown that people come to towns like Southport because of our quaintness. They want to leave the neons. They want to leave the Myrtle Beaches. So I think, regardless of what we may think personally, I think we have to put those aside and look at what is best for our community. And I don't think any neon lights adds to it. And that's just an opinion. Thank you.
Well, one compromise to both sides of this is it's like we have right now. We have, for example, our street lights. Our street lights are being phased out over time, and they're being replaced with other lights. Well, if we look at this and say, yes, this is allowed, but only this type of lighting is allowed, and as we move forward, we look for innovation of different people. Businesses will innovate in a way when their neighboring businesses say, well, I'm just going to get away from this and I'm going to go to this because this type of sign or this type of sign. This is kind of like the last little bit of, I guess you could say, personal preference that a business owner has to say, okay, we're open, but you know what? I saw this really cool open sign down the street, or this really cool sign that, and I'd like to have something like that. I think that's why you see the 19% now, because they just haven't figured out what to put up in the business yet. So I agree with you on that. There are ways we can have some signage that'll let people know that places are open, smaller businesses are open. Now, definitely downtown, Central Business District, I mean, it's a walking tour down there anyway. And as we progress further out, it's gonna turn into that anyway. So so what I think we could do is, one of the things we could do is we could say, yes, we'll allow these small signs, but we could also start offering businesses some ideas about, because as we switch over our signs in town, you know, our historic signs and other things, and they start matching that up, I think I think you're going to see a flip towards that. You know what I mean? Everybody they want to build a bigger mousetrap, but everybody also wants a better looking car than the next guy. You know, so it's letting them have that last little gasp. I mean, I've got a neon sign, a small one, and I just put it on in case somebody's driving through the parking lot. But I've already been experimenting with several different kinds of signs that I could use that'll let people know that I'm there, that they can see from the roadway, that doesn't involve really any lighting. As far as the 19%, I think that's because people are just phasing them out. I think it's a natural progression towards that, and if we encourage that, they'll go that way, because a lot of some of the businesses sit far off and they think they need that visibility, when in fact they really don't. But I think the more examples that we cite, like these right here, these are great examples right here, great examples of stuff, and of how, I mean, for example, you know, you can just put the little red sign up and give your hours, or you can say this way, welcome, and give the number, give the information, and there's no lighting involved in that. So they've progressed away from their lighting and gone with something a little different. Using colored doorways or some type of screen that can be pulled down. I mean, it's just as simple as just pulling a blind down with something written on there that say, hey, we're and then, of course, there's also reflective paints and other things that could be used from the inside. They aren't going to affect the outside, but when you pull them down, people will know. So it's I definitely on the inside of if we're going to leave them up, definitely on the inside of the window, because a lot of glass has natural coating or has coatings that are going to shade that light trespass outward. We don't, you know, I don't see any need to put them outside of a business, but on the inside of a business, as long as it's a standard style sign. I mean, I'll be honest with you, my sign, I don't even like it anymore, but I mean, I wish Bill Ross had bought a different one, but I would never pull that thing out. But there's already, I think, a natural progression towards getting away from these as people start to decorate, and I guess what we called it, the Main Street theme. Yeah, and I think we're gonna see a lot more of that. That's going to be developing outward. So, I would say they have the option to keep them. I mean, I'm fine with them keeping them, but that we should encourage through examples of other options. I mean, that could be done through the historic committee. Could look at it and say, hey, these are some ideas that we're floating out that you might want to look at, and put those out to business. Because a lot of times, if you give a business an idea, they'll kind of go towards that, just naturally looking to upgrade their situation. I think I kind of rambled there a little bit, but trying to,
Well, I think, you know, people may be progressing away from them. I don't know, I haven't counted them. But I think they ought to have the right to progress away from them. We regulate the crap out of people now. You can't do anything without a rule. And now you're going to tell somebody, you know, we're going to start picking out what kind of open sign they can have. You may want to regulate the size so it's not obtrusive, but, you know, you're going to start telling them what kind of stuff they can say. You know, anyway, it's just,
I'm just talking about
I'm
making
agreeing
it-
with you.
yeah, making
But I'm
us-
just saying,
yeah.
we're just over-regulating. And historically, neon signs have been around since 1910.
Yeah.
So, you know, in Southport, it probably went from candlelight and lamps and then got electricity and they can have neon signs. So since we've had lit signs, neon's been around.
yeah.
So it's nothing new. And so anyway,
Yeah. And that's,
it's a, you know, I like them, you don't like them. It's an opinion, you know. Yours may be right, I don't know. But I think the people ought to have the right do what they want when it comes to something like that. And I'm not saying put up these gaudy signs like it's a wings or something, but that's not what we're talking about.
no,
We're talking about, you know, even at this one that's 13 by 32, that's not a big sign.
no, it's, I think, you're talking about, basically the biggest sign would be about, an arm's length out. Yeah, but, yeah, I'm with you on that. If, you know, we don't need to step on people's rights, but we can offer them suggestions on, hey, you know, have you know,
Well, if people come up with, if the world comes up with better signs that they like, they'll progress to them.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't have to
we
make
don't
them
have to
do
force it on them.
That's
No.
right.
Yeah.
We force enough stuff on
Yeah.
them.
I think we have to ask ourselves this question. In Southport right now, how many of you remember back in the 60s when you went downtown Southport? You didn't know if anything was open. There was hardly no neon signs, and most businesses were closed. And now things have changed. We're not like Las Vegas with all the neon signs. And when, as Scott would say, when we start regulating what kind of sign, because some people look for a business open by that neon sign. I know when I drive into Southport at night, and as far as a quaint little fishing town, that went out in the 60s. It's no longer a quaint little fishing town. The Brunswick Navigation is closed, Smith is closed, and the only people we have down here at night are tourists. When you think about it, for those who lived here, well, I was here in the 70s, but in the 80s I was gone. In 1970, you drove downtown Southport, there was nothing there but maybe the teen scene and the musical theater. And that was about it. There were no businesses. Now this is 21st century, and we got to change with the time. Personally, myself, I don't see any gaudy neon signs in Southport right as it stands right now. And I agree with Scott. When we start regulating the signs because we want to keep it a little quaint little fishing district, we passed that era because it is no longer quaint anymore. Southport is on the map. The movie industry did that, so we're on there. So I see nothing wrong with the signs now and no reason to regulate them.
Don, thank you. First, when you talk about regulation, that is what part of our responsibility, and that's why we have ordinances. Regulation is a necessity of life. The question is, do you think it's overreaching because you're asking people to change the type of signage because neon, many towns have gotten rid of neon back in the days because of environmental reasons. Yeah, they came out, I think they really hit that peak in 1920 and they came on, but more and more times, Cary, North Carolina has banned them. You know, every year more and more towns are saying, we don't want the Myrtle Beach atmosphere. And one of the compromises is if I can convince, or we decide in whatever judgment that neon signs should not be allowed, including the open, then give the people time to phase them out. Because people will not make change unless they're prompted to make change, because it's what they've been doing. They don't like change. Most people don't like change. But as far as overregulation, the fact you're taking away an open sign downtown for tourists, walking on the sidewalk, if you look, you can tell the business is open by all the signage that examples you've been given here tonight. It's kind of interesting. If you look at all the businesses that are doing well, Mr. P's does not have any neon signs at all. Compare Haven next to it. They have halo lighting, they have open, they have a whole bunch of things in there. And you step back and you look at it and you say, which is more aesthetically pleasing to this town? So obviously, having that sign does not make a difference in this day and age. We're not that big. Our Main Street is not that large. It's not like New York City, where you have 50 businesses competing with hallways and overhangs, and they need to know. Ace Hardware doesn't have it. Ace Hardware sits way back off the road. Mad River, which is one of the more popular businesses in town, they don't have it. The bulk of them are going out past Rourke. When you go out towards Walmart and those little plazas, in town it's mostly the restaurants, Oliver's, Blue Cow, Portico has a small one. And is it necessary for people? People know they're open at night. It doesn't really serve a function. That's what my main thing is. Restriction is fine as long as you don't take functionality away from the people. And these signs aren't taking away it's not creating economic loss, and it's not hindering their ability to do business. And to me, that's the safest regulation that you can have. But thank you.
I think if you take the neon open sign away, they're going to come up with another open sign. People are going to have an open sign that when I ride down, I can tell the Easy Way's open because his sign's on. Or if it's not on, he's closed. When we leave here tonight, that sign's it depends on when we leave, that sign's either going to be on or off, and I'm not planning on stopping there, but if I was, I'd know right away that he was open. And so he would have to go to sounds like a non-lit sign to tell people he's open. Some people don't pull their phone out and look to see what's open. Some people look at the business, riding by, oh yeah, they're open, okay. So, you're still getting them you're pretty much requiring them to quit using that sign and come up with a different open sign. I think if there's a better one, they'll migrate to it, but they should have the right to use one if they want to.
I want to be sure I'm understanding correctly here, Mo, just to be sure. What we're looking at for this text that you brought in tonight, that's dated 5/10, item I, that speaks to neon with the new language in it, what is not underlined or highlighted is already in the UDO, correct?
That is correct.
So, folks, we already say neon, argon, other gas tube, lighting, or signage shall be prohibited. Y'all, we're already doing this. So, I mean, we're sitting here debating whether to have it or not. We're already saying we're not allowing this. What we're talking about here is if we're going to limit the size of what we're allowing, if we allow certain types of signs to say like an open sign. This is me, my opinion. I'm not a fan of neon in any form. And if we continue to say in our comprehensive plan, and I don't think this is anything that anybody is saying we want to change in our revision, that we want to stay true to our historic character, okay? Then neon, to me, doesn't go along with that. If we're going to, for me, if we're going to allow something, an open sign, I think we should limit the size to it. Otherwise, we've already seen, we've made mention of businesses already that got their open sign, then they decided on something else they wanted, they put something else in, they've decided on something else. They're going to keep growing. And it is going to turn us into looking more like Myrtle Beach or a resort town. If we can limit what's in the windows, the size of them, restrict it coming down into the CBD, not having them in CBD, and start the process of helping businesses like Will has suggested, maybe working with the Historic Preservation Commission to start making suggestions, or again, providing examples as we make revisions to the UDO of images so people can see. I mean, this is great. These are great examples, good examples to put in here for businesses to see. I don't see any problem with, it's not taking anyone's right away to have the sign. If we're going to reach some kind of compromise, maybe that could be it, that we look at the size, decide on a size of an open sign or one neon sign in a window, instead of seeing how many cute and snappy things we can find to put in there to attract business. Most of our businesses, I don't think, have any problem attracting their customers. So that's my point of view. Mr. Pender, you're the only one who's not given an opinion. Mo.
Madam Chair, if I may, please. I do want to clarify that in the section that we have here, the struck language is existing. So the signs that are inside the building or within the window, they are allowed. So the open signs are allowed now, as long as they don't exceed 25% of the window area or 32 square feet, whichever is less. So I just wanted that clarification.
I have one question. So in the UDO, they're already outlawed in UDO. If that's the case, then I don't think we have, unless I'm wrong.
You just said they aren't.
Oh, they aren't. Oh, these the ones inside the window. They're not. So it's not the ones that's on the outside, because there are none on the outside because they're prohibited right now. Am I correct?
I know of one that it's been there for years, I'm sure. I know Bernie's Bakery has one on their freestanding sign. That's the one I know of. But again, that was probably existing before the prior ordinance would have outlawed, or said that you couldn't have these neon lights.
So it's grandfathered.
That's correct. And as long as it's maintained, they can keep it.
Okay. And this is only for signs inside the window.
The exception now, yes, is only for lights inside.
All right.
Any external are prohibited now.
If you have a comment, you are welcome to do so.
Indecision. This may be a lot to do about nothing. I understand everything about overregulation. I understand about aesthetics. And I guarantee the people who own those businesses do not share our opinion of what's aesthetic and not aesthetic. And they're all trying to make a living, even though we can't find a parking space for people to come in to their businesses. 19%? 80% do not have lit signs. I don't want to encourage these neon signs. I'm not sure I want to outlaw them. Southport is changing. We've got a historic district that is going to, if one of those buildings burns down tomorrow to the ground and it's gone, we're not going to be able to build something back that's modern or fancy, doesn't look like the rest of the block. We are protecting our history, we're protecting our heritage, we're protecting our architecture. And frankly, I don't have a way to answer. I wish I did, because what Kevin's saying, what Will's saying, what y'all saying, every one of you have got a good point. When I saw those signs up there, I said, oh, Mo, I'm going to vote for those signs. They're great. Then I've been listening, 19%. They all had to go away. It wouldn't maybe affect anything downtown, but that 19% feels that they need something like that. Do we discourage it in writing, or do we encourage a non-lit, closed, open sign? I don't have the answer to that. And again, I think I'm adding a layer of confusion because I don't have an answer to that. Because I mean, I look at all the research done and everything, and I wanted those when Mo put them up there, and now I'm not sure I do. But I'm not sure I want to outlaw them. Southport is changing. It will evolve with or without us, I think. I guess that's all food for thought. Do we vote on it and say, yes, this is what we're going to do? Or do we scratch our heads and say, well, it's all outlawed? Or do we just let those 19% have their way, and if everybody else wants one, suddenly we have 100% open signs down there that are neon lit? Or do those 19% go away? Can we force that 19% to go away? Or will that 19% encourage everybody else to have a neon sign 5 years from now? I'm not smart enough to answer that question. And aesthetically, let's don't get into aesthetics in some way. Let's leave that, well, we have to. But aesthetics, I guarantee each one of us have a different idea of what aesthetics is. And each one of us has what historical is. When I was in design school, one of my professors said, one day, you're going to have a historic town that puts all their above wiring and wooden posts back up because that's historically 1900, and you don't want all this underground. I never forgot that. We could reintroduce, overhead wiring downtown if we wanted to let this be a truly historic downtown. We're trying. I will shut up now with telling that I hope I have confused y'all, but I hope y'all are as confused as I do, and I hope one of y'all will come up with the answer with this little subject, which probably needs to be addressed or thrown away. That's it. You see, you shouldn't have asked me.
Taken into, everyone has a point. It appears that people want to make a compromise position, meaning open signs. It appears that open signs is the popular view. And that is with understanding that if you have an open sign, that's it. That's the only type of neon, argon, LED lighting that is allowed in windows would be size of certain dimensions of open. And then the other alternative is you take the approach that they're not allowed, but you give them 2 or 3 years to phase out and find the alternatives. And then, because what we'll find out, once you enact an ordinance, and once people become aware of it, that's when you're going to find out what they truly want. Will they say, yeah, right, we'll make a change, or are they going to stay steadfast and say that needs to be changed? So to me, there's the two compromises are open only with established dimensions, no other, or phase them, give them 3 years to phase them out. That's what most cities have done that have taken that approach. Because, you know, they talk about seeing the signs and that, people have soft lighting. They can put lighting that shines down on the sign, or in the windows, they have the white lights around it. I mean, there's ways to illuminate non-neon signs. It's just, it's one of those topics where everybody's going to have an opinion.
Just a little observation on this too is, okay, when we're talking about businesses, and this goes back to what Scott and Donnie were talking about, you know, there's a plane that when you cross that, you're encroaching on somebody's rights. When you go inside of their business and tell them what they can't have as far as, you know, inside, you got to be real careful about that, because people are really testy about their rights these days, and that's all over the country, because they think that government has overreached itself. Outside is a different story, but inside, yeah. And now I've got no problem. Like I said, I'm coming up with ideas myself, but right now I'm just using one of these signs. I'm using that myself, and I'll end up ditching mine, and it won't be 3 years either. It'll be sooner than that, because I've about made my mind up what I want to do. But somebody like Bob at the Easy Way, that's what he believes. That's his way of attracting business. Because he, like Scott said, when he rides by, he knows if Bob's there or not by the sign being on. As far as, you know, on the interior, you know, as long as we keep it, as long as this, you know, because nobody's making custom signs. They're buying them standard somewhere. So, yeah, one open sign, lit, interior of a business, I've got no problem with that, because, like I said, we are making that progression away, and so I've got no problem with it on the inside of the business. I know some people like to stick them outside sometimes. Well, that's a different story, but because now they're adding to their square footage outside the business when they do that. But inside, yeah, and soft lighting is a good way to do it. If you light your windows up, you can see what's going on in there. I think a lot of people are starting to go to that, and they'll naturally progress. But I say, you know, if they, with 19% is down a lot more than what I remember, so I would say within a few years anyway, most of them will be gone, most likely anyway. So, I mean, I've got no problem with the business owner who wants to exercise their right to put that sign up. If it's lit, most of them are getting away from neon now because they don't like them. They like LED. But eventually they'll get away from that too. But anyway, that's my opinion on it. I hope I've helped.
So,
It's just, to me, it's a non sequitur. It doesn't make sense. If we're saying it's always been established that neon is not allowed on the walls, but somehow because you have a sheet of glass and it just happens to be on the inside of that glass, that makes it proper. Why did they originally say we don't want it on the outside of the building? It had to be aesthetics. It had to be. I mean, what other reason? So that I don't, my limited brain power doesn't, I just can't follow. And right now we have 19%, but you know, you always got to play devil's advocate. What if more people decide they want to do it? You know, so all of a sudden there's a run that someone says, hey, let's go to Southport, you know, they allow them, let's sell them at half price, and everyone buys one. So it's one of those things where you're kind of darned if you do and darned if you don't. But
So what say you gentlemen about instructions? Do we send something back to the committee again to look at this for the number one, the number of signs that you would be allowed, the size of signs? Do you want to talk about phasing them out? To give folks time to get used to something else, find something else, and then us lead with examples of something else that they could have. What do you want? Obviously, we're not gonna, unless somebody wants to make a motion one way or the other tonight, then we need to give the committee some instruction to move forward with.
Well, people have been able to, I mean, they've been legal so far, and 19% are using them. If they've been able to use them, I don't see, because we don't make them illegal, that everybody is going to decide to run out and get one. The people that don't have them now, they could have had one. They're probably not going to go get one. They could have already got one. So I don't think that's an issue that, you know, we're going to end up with a whole lot more because we didn't shut it down. I mean, they've already been able to get them. I think we look at, send it back and ask, maybe limit the sign and the size, but I don't see phasing them out. You're still telling them they can't have them, even if it's today or in 3 years.
I only have one other thought, and that is, if 80% of the businesses had those neon open signs in their windows, would there be a single visitor or tourist who didn't come to this town?
in reverse, that is true.
I'm just saying, I don't think people are going to come or stay away from this town and decide this looks like Myrtle Beach because of those signs. I don't necessarily like them. But seriously, is anybody not going to come to this town? Maybe it'd be a good thing if they all had 100% of signs, so you keep a few people away from this town. But in all reality, we've got the historical district, we've got a sign ordinance that's really coming on strong, and it's good. It's been reviewed. It's ready to be. This one little bit, is it going to matter?
Okay. It sounds to me like there's more committee discussion. Nobody's coming up with a motion. Okay? So there's more committee discussion to be done here to look at a compromise for this. Is that what I'm hearing? To keep?
Now, if we, I mean, there's more to this than just the sign. I mean, isn't there a whole, I mean, we're looking at the whole set of rules. Because I would make a motion that we allow open signs, one open sign and a neon open sign, but that's not going to cover this whole document that we're wanting to approve. Is that correct?
No, I was referencing the neon discussion, that was,
Okay.
that needs work. I mean, that's what I'm hearing, right, from everybody? More work on that? Okay. All right, so that's agreed to go back to committee on that. What, Mo, I think we stopped the discussion on with the neon, right? To give the discussion on that. Are there comments or questions on any of the other signage, to Scott's point, any of the other signage language that's been presented, the murals, any of that?
I think on the political signs and other things of that nature, I think we've already covered that, and I believe we're in agreement on that. One sign per candidate instead of one sign per
Period.
period.
Yes.
So that we've already covered. So we're good on that. And then we also know the color temperature on the window lighting, as well as outdoor sign lighting. Does anybody have anything on that? Because I think we're good on that as well. We're trying to get more to a muted lighting. So really, the only thing that we have, well, the mural standards, we were going to do paint and soft colors that were representative of the town. So does everybody, if they want to put one up, if nobody has a problem with that. So I think we're just on this sign. That's all we got.
Well, the neon
The
in
neon.
general.
Yeah.
So,
So I would like some clarification on inflatable signs. I did not notice that before. That seems inconsistent with everything. That's 310, item 6. It says a sign, an inflatable sign is allowed for 10 days per year, not taller than 25 feet. That seems out of place to me, more than open neon signs, but 3.10, freestanding ground sign size, item 6, it has a hash mark through it. That doesn't indicate deletion, does it?
No, that was Microsoft Word taking over. But yeah, so it's table 310, so this is going to be section F, on-premise signs, and then you'll go down to, that would be number 7. It needs to be renumbered to 7. Inflatable sign. One inflatable sign should be allowed once per calendar year per business. So then you're allowed to have the sign that is not internally illuminated, should not be higher than 25 feet above grade, shall not be erected or maintained on a building parapet or roof. The time allowed for these signs shall not exceed 10 days. These signs shall be located on either an attached, tethered, or freestanding structure. The sign and its structure shall not block or inhibit the visibility of vehicular traffic or in any way pose a danger to pedestrians or vehicular traffic or property. I do not know the history of this inclusion, it just has been.
Does anybody here see that to be a desirable sign ordinance to include that? I mean, even electronic message center signs, I would think that's right up there and beyond neon signs, but I could see them being appropriate for municipal buildings. Maybe the fire center, maybe City Hall, but other than that, why would we need that?
Does anybody know an example of that? I mean,
The fire department,
yeah,
a message board.
I'm talking about the inflatable. it would have to be more of a,
That's,
The floppy man.
that's
Yeah.
that's Market Street right there, or, you know, if you had, well, an example would be if you had a restaurant and you wanted to inflate a 25-foot pirate out in front of it. You were at. They don't have space for. Mm-mm. And I think we talked about doing away with that anyway, because that was about the time that we were looking at those sail flags that could become the world's largest lawn dart in a bad wind. Because so that's I mean, a 25-foot sign, yeah. Oof. That could present a serious hazard, especially on Main Street.
So Fred, are you suggesting that the committee go back and discuss that as well as far as taking that out?
Either that or we could make a decision now. It's pretty black and white to me. Well, we could discuss it now or go into review board.
What's y'all's
All right.
pleasure?
Can I make a motion?
You can.
I'd like to make a motion that we disallow inflatable signs and electronic message center signs except for on municipal buildings.
I second.
Thank you. Motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor? Any further discussion? I'm sorry. Any further discussion?
the only discussion I have is, if there's a legitimate, I agree with you, these big blow-up signs, or the big one that flaps up and down, that's just not appropriate downtown. But I don't know if there is a less obtrusive one that would be appropriate. I don't know that, you know, is there one? So we may be ruling out something that isn't so bad, just, generally. I agree that a big blow-up sign, we really don't need those. Or there are smaller ones that businesses might use that aren't so obtrusive. I don't know the answer to that.
Madam Chair, this would be only for the downtown business district, am I correct on that?
The way this is written, I think Donnie and Mo clarify, this is it, period, everywhere.
Correct, anywhere within this jurisdiction for the UDO.
Well, I'd like to modify my motion then to restrict the disallowance to business district and CBD.
So disallow them in the CBD and the BD.
Correct.
All right, we have an amended motion. Do I hear a second to the amendment?
Second.
Thank you, Roy. We have that amended motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mo, can you prepare that text for us, please, ma'am? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Fred. What other, does anything else for questions for Mo for clarification on any of the other information that's been presented to us tonight, including Kevin's work on the the murals that's been inserted here for us. Any questions about that? And we're sending Neon back to the committee to have discussion on that and bring it back to us again.
Yes.
Good?
okay.
Everybody's in agreement with that action. That's what we'll take then, folks, and we'll continue this discussion again on Neon next month. Thank you, Mo. All right. Let's continue, please, then, with item G2, the update on 101 East Moore Street. Mo, if you'll do our recap for that committee meeting.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So again, the committee met on May 9th to discuss this major site plan. The committee was Chair Hodgen, Mr. Fisk, and Mr. Chris Jones. So the committee reviewed the newest updated site plan that had a new parking layout with all of the setbacks required, and that followed backing into House Street. There were some questions from the board and the committee, and they asked staff to reach out to the NCDOT for further information and approval that the backing into House Street would be safe and allowed on a state highway, and also to look at some of the pedestrian concerns they had. I sent a letter to the Division 3 traffic engineer. I've not heard back, but I will be following up next week just to make sure that this keeps moving forward. Also, the committee asked that staff pull together the communication that the staff and the applicant has been having since the January 2024 to the September parking study submittal, to ensure that there was communication and forward movement of the application that was not lacking over 6 months. So that was a 9-month span. You can only have a 6-month stopping, but we were working together, and I knew that they were working on the traffic study. So we'll get all of that information together for the committee and bring that back to committee once all of that information is available.
And maybe I missed this, Mo, and I'm sorry if I did. One of the other things that came out of the committee was to get written documentation from fire and police about that Board of Adjustment approval that was given, instead of it being a verbal, to actually have that in writing for CYA, if lack of a better term, for that. So I had notes that there were 3 asks out of that meeting that we would be talking about later on.
Yes, I will get that for you. Thank you.
Okay, so we don't have any formal action to take on that tonight, folks. That was just an update on that submission. And then moving on to item G3, the zoning map amendment update for Highway Commercial to Business District, North Howell at River Road. Mo.
Yes, thank you. So, as you know, this was a board request to consider a rezoning of this intersection, and it would be the south side of the intersection of North Howell, excuse me, and 211. So that was asked in February. Staff presented this corridor area at your March meeting, and then staff was asked to contact the property owners for any input on the proposal. Since the proposal was requested and letters were sent to each property owner, since then we have heard from 3 of the 4 property owners that we have. There are 5 parcels, but 4 owners on that one. So for 1541, I've not received a response. That is on the corner. That is Famous Subs. 1456, which is the professional plaza with several different offices in there. They called inquiring just to kind of get an understanding of what the request was about. And I have not received any formal comments. I was under the impression they would be coming back to me with some information, but I have not received that yet. I spoke with Bald Head Limited. They said that they were supportive of a gateway, an entry corridor, and would be willing to work with the city on that. And then there was a letter, I received written comment from the owners of the Walgreen property, which is 1531 North Howe. And I do have copies for you that I will pass out. Here, I can send those to you right now. Where did those go? You wanna pass that down? And if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and read that in for a record. So, hi Maureen, thank you for meeting with my wife and me last Tuesday and discussing the proposed zoning change from highway commercial to BD that would affect our property. As I understand it, the thought is that a smaller zoning size allowance would enhance the gateway into the city. I also understand that our existing use, the Walgreens drugstore, would be allowed to continue as a non-conforming use. However, if our use was vacated for more than 6 months, we would be required to conform to the new zoning designation, which would require us to at least partially demolish our building. I understand the city's goal to enhance the gateway, but just a smaller size by taking away a property owner's rights and value doesn't necessarily accomplish that. For instance, the new zoning business district would still allow us, if we were forced to conform, to put in a coin-operated laundry business, and I don't see how that enhances the city's gateway. Rather, that forcing a zoning downgrade and diminishing our value, which would also lower our taxable value, a more thoughtful approach may be to develop a partnership with the owners, something like Main Street America. The city could offer landscape and sign design plans, and perhaps the owners would be willing to participate in some ways. Just some thoughts I have. Jack Clark, manager, Southport Property, LLC. So those were the comments that I have received. So I just wanted to bring this back up to you, and due to the existing pattern, staff would like to wait on this, recommends waiting on the comprehensive plan to be finished. There's going to be corridor studies included in that, and we can incorporate a design charrette when we get some guidance from the comprehensive plan to get some real good public input. But it is up to you. I'm willing to discuss this at any length with you, or any questions you may have. I just wanted to bring this back up and tell you where we were in the process from staff's point. So,
Mo, I have a
Yes, sir.
question. Is Walgreens over 5,000 square feet?
yes, it's over 10,000 square feet.
How big is the old Kerr Drug?
That's the Walgreens. It's
Well,
11.
no, the one that crossed the vacated building.
I don't know that one off the top of my head. So they did contact me. I forgot about that one. I apologize.
When we did a conditional zoning request for a business, we used 11,000 feet as the Walgreens. I think, and I believe it was about 8,000 feet was the old Kerr Drugs.
Yeah,
Is,
that's
I
what I
think
was
that's
talking
what that building came out as, was 8,000, because these people were wanting to put in about a 9,000 or 10,000 foot building. And so those are the two examples that we cited when we did. It's been a couple of years since the review, but I think that's what it was about 8,000.
I was just curious as if it changed, and then hopefully somebody will do something with it someday and, turn it into something besides an abandoned building. But, if somebody was to buy it and want to do something with it, if it was over the size limit, then the first thing they'd have to do is tear part of it down. That wouldn't be an incentive.
So the old building that's deserted right now just went on the market in the past week, and in the marketing verbiage, it does mention what the planning board is considering, so it is for sale currently, not that that affects anything. As far as the Walgreens changing hands, could conditional zoning for forward use of that not be an option, or could a variance from the Board of Adjustments be an option?
A variance could be an option. For the conditional zoning, you have to use whatever zoning district is underlying the dimensions and requirements for that, for the way the commercial conditional zoning was built or included in our UDO. So that dimension would not be able to go for, but you could move forward and ask the Board of Adjustment for a variance for that property, yes.
Well, on the size of the building, we could look to grandfather that. If it's a pre-existing structure, then that could be grandfathered in, but it would fall under business district requirements. Would grandfather any structure that's already there, but then have it fall under business district requirements rather than highway commercial requirements, which are very broad. So we could leave if they want to leave the building at 8,000 feet, they could have it at 8,000 feet because it's already pre-existing. But it would fall under the business district plan. So that's something we could probably look at doing as a compromise on something like that. But any empty lots would then fall under the business district. Any new construction would fall under that if they're not using the same footprint. Because I think that's the only one that's really in question right now is that one building. So that way we don't interfere with that.
So Mo, if just a few of the property owners were interested, such as Bald Head Limited, could we not rezone that to BD if they're agreeable?
There's no reason why you couldn't, yes.
This is heading in the right direction. Rereading this letter from Jack Clark, Southport Property, after I get through reading the first part of it, the last part of it I find very encouraging. I also find very encouraging that Bald Head Limited is saying, hey, we'll work with you. I like what Mr. Clark is saying about developing a partnership with the owners, something like Main Street America. City could offer some landscape and sign design plans, and perhaps the owners would be willing to participate in some way. We also have that triangle that the NCDOT really is never going to need anymore, so that could be included in it. Would it be logical to let's go ahead and approach the owners and say, we respect y'all's rights and we respect y'all wanting to improve that area, which is the entrance to Southport. Could we all get together and let's talk about options? Because streets, once NCDOT gets out of there, okay, it's going to be up to the owners if they want to. Well, the NCDOT, I have no idea what their plans are for streetscape there, but these owners and the major owners have said, hey, we'll work with you. So what would be wrong with offering to meet with all these owners in a design charrette or just design option and say, all right, what are the options? Maybe we can clean up or eliminate some of your parking that's not necessarily required. Suddenly we have an entranceway that's controlled with a beautiful streetscape and everybody's happy. I'm really encouraged by two of these owners. Help me here.
Well, I think I agree with you on that. And one way that we could, I think one way we could do that is, I wouldn't call it a public hearing, but we could ask for public input on that as well. Because there's going to be more than just these people are going to be affected more so than anybody else, but so's the surrounding area. So just like our steering committee has public input sessions, this would be an option right here that we could open up to work with them on some ideas, giving them some ideas and see if they would move forward towards that rezoning. What do you guys think?
So let's talk a minute about the comp plan, Mo, and how this could be. I personally like your idea of taking this work that we've already done, that staff has already done, and taking it to the steering committee and to Stewart and say, this is a desirable thing. As we start looking at what we want when we do the visioning for an entry corridor, this is a way to get that worked into all of that. We've not heard from all of these owners, so I don't know that, for me anyway, that it would make sense to move ahead to pull 2 parcels in, waiting to hear from all of them makes more sense to me, but then to work that into that comp plan revision as what needs to be done as we enter the city. And like Roy says, just take these ideas, start looking at this as a way to fashion that corridor as we come in. That would be my preference. That makes sense. We've been talking about the comp plan revision all along, and the things that would be good to look at and I think Stewart is already looking at that as we've had the one public meeting, that the input that we got, there was a whole table for folks to leave sticky notes about what they wanted to see, and there was information there for the corridor. So I think we're having a steering committee meeting next week to move this forward in the visioning for that. I think would be a great idea to look at all of that, and it may evolve itself naturally as this moves ahead. Yes, sir?
I think we can do something there to create an entrance to Southport without penalizing the existing owners. I mean, that's what we all want to do. And how we do that, I don't know. Is it with the comprehensive plan, or is it a letter back to these people thanking them for their interest in helping to create an attractive entrance to Southport? And I don't know how much we can do without getting ourselves in trouble. But, I mean, we've had 2 people. I really, on the other side, Go Gas and the bank, that's outside Southport. I'd like to control the entrance, but we're not going to be able to. But if we can get everything from Robert Ruark in with streetscape and businesses and all working together and not penalize. This is down zoning, is it not? And what we're talking about, down zoning, that's dangerous. I mean, that's my opinion, but it's dangerous. Anytime you want to take away the value of a property by down zoning, and it may not be, but you're going to, once you start talking about down zoning, we're going to get into those people coming back and talking to us. But if we can work with them and just working with them and create a streetscape that says, welcome to, hey, we are now entering Southport. I don't know how to do that. And Sue, what you said may be the way, but I'd like us to figure out a way to do that and reward everybody instead of, penalize.
This is one of the things that we've been talking about for some time, and already it's coming out in the comp plan revisions and in general in town. Public-private partnerships to advance things for the city, move things ahead. we don't have just unlimited resources to do things. I think for us, moving this ahead as part of the comp plan, I'm sorry, for y'all, it makes perfect sense to me to use this avenue to do this. And if we can, and Mo, you probably already have responded to these folks, thanking them for their comments and letting them know that it's been forwarded on to the planning board. If we've not done that, absolutely, we should do that, but I know you already have. And let's move it forward. Let's not let this languish. Let's put it in there for the steering committee to look at and know that this body is supportive of doing that, to making a true entry corridor and making it special, to welcome a welcoming, beautiful entryway into town.
And just to add-on comment was, we have, with central business, with business district, and then with, of course, that goes on outside of town as well, all the way to highway commercial. A lot of people don't, and I do hear this from some business owners that they don't feel that they're part of this town. Some of them don't feel that they feel left out. There are some businesses that feel that they are left out. So if you have an area that's out to that point, and you say, we're doing everything from here to here as part of our comprehensive plan, then everything in between that may have said, wait a minute, we're not left out. They're going well beyond us to offer this partnership, to offer ideas and offer avenues that we can improve our business. Then it really connects everything in town, from Oliver's all the way out to Go Gas. It makes them equally as important. Yeah, and I think you'll find that there are people that once they see that we're going beyond this and that we want to connect everybody together, they'll get on board with it. There's a lot of them that'll find some way to say, yeah, I'd like to be part of that. What suggestions do you have? We don't force it on anybody. We had a zoning issue some years ago when I first came on the board, where there was commercial property on the west side of town, and some people wanted to make it. Some people wanted just to make it residential. So we contacted everybody and said, you have the option to rezone this, and we'll help you out with it. If you ever want to turn it back into something, then we'll do that as well. So we gave options. We had a public hearing on it. It was all part of this, and this one block came in, and everybody was contacted. Some people said, I'm going to leave it like it is, and other people said, okay, yeah, I'll go with residential. So we gave them a choice, we gave them options, and we helped them out. And so far, I think we've had one group, one business that said, or one person that said, I wanted to keep this commercial for now, and then they switched to residential, and it was 4 lots. So, but they were happy to do it. It was easy. They came in. It was a simple thing of, okay, yep, and we switched it over, and we did it for them. They came back later and decided, before the property was, they didn't want to develop it commercially. They wanted to develop it residentially, so they came before the board, and we handled it in one review, and that was it. So when people have options, they'll see what other people are doing. They'll talk to them and say, okay. So, but it gives a point to point. It doesn't say you're more important than we are. It ties everything together on that one street, because you can see the waterfront from out that far on a clear day. If you look, if there's not a lot of tractor trailers in the way or whatever, you can see it. So I think that'll help us unify the town if we give a point to point and say everything in between, we're gonna help you with this stuff. We're gonna counsel you on it or offer suggestions, but we want your suggestions as well.
And I think the comp plan is a great way to do that, to get them involved in those conversations. I think utilize Stewart's resources for them to make those contacts, get in touch with those business owners out there, ask them to be involved in what they'd like to see that entry courted. They're probably already doing it. But again, get their buy-in and ask Stewart as well to start looking at, before we prey on Roy's good nature, and say, let's come up with some landscape design plans. Stewart probably already has such things that they can suggest as part of the plan revision. So I would say let's just further this on, if everybody's in agreement to that, to the steering committee this week, and make sure that it's incorporated into the discussions and plans as we move forward. I think it just goes seamlessly into that.
And we're gonna get it back to the board anyway.
That's right.
I have one small comment. Sidewalk connectivity, I'm sure everybody's in favor of that already, but that would accomplish what Will is talking about to a degree, so I'm sure that's part of the conversation, right?
That's one of my, I mention it at every table that I sat at during that public meeting. I've said it at steering committee meeting already. We need connectivity all through this town. We want people to move. We want them to have easy ways to move and not take their lives in their hands while they're trying to do it. So yes, we've talked about connectivity quite a bit through town, through our parks, making a great little mini greenway through our town. I think it's a great idea. So we'll, with everyone's approval, we'll send this on to the steering committee then this week. Everyone in a consensus to do that? Don't need a motion to do that, I don't think. Does that make sense? Yes?
I would like to add one thing to add on to that, and this is to Mo. Mo, isn't there a state agency or something that we can reach out to and say, we need design and planning help for a specific area, and bring them in and let them move ahead with this, guiding everybody to a solution that we all like? COG, who is it? That park right there is a result of one of those plans. We're not professionals. Is there somebody who we can recommend that is brought in here to look at that area on connectivity and entry and bringing the outside to the inside? And it all goes back to the public again, but we need somebody. Y'all can't do it. Y'all are overwhelmed. Is there an outside agency that can be brought in to guide us on that section?
But I think Stewart has those resources to be able to come up with those suggestions. If they're not bringing the plan forward themselves, they have those resources to say, here's some great choices for you to use to advance that.
All right, that's all I wanted to add, because
Did I speak out of place on any of that?
No, not at all. Yes, so if there are big picture things that need to be implemented, they can add policy and implementation steps that'll say, this is our vision, this is where we want to go, and to help us find the ways to get there, that with the comprehensive plan. Yes, so thank you very much. So, yep.
So if I recall, part of the DOT's plan is to, with this highway improvement, sidewalks from that intersection all the way to Walmart, I think. Isn't that correct? So.
Any other discussion on that? So we're in consensus. This is moving forward to the steering committee. Thank you, Mo, and thank you, Fred, for your conversation bringing this up initially for us to be able to advance this. Okay, we are going to new business. Item H, Mo, we're not letting you go. Item number 1, a text amendment introduction for section 3.17D, landscaping on public property.
Yes, thank you. So this text amendment is going to be brought forward to you at your next meeting. The Board of Aldermen have been considering and soliciting input for right-of-way allowances for the last year at least. And at their May 9th meeting, regular meeting, they approved a city ordinance that it allows certain encroachments, including some parking, existing land use, and some grass within the right-of-way. So there's section 317 in the UDO mirrors one portion of that. So we are going to need to update the UDO to match that language. So right now, the language as it states in the UDO is it shall be unlawful for any person to place or cause to be placed on any public street, road, alley, sidewalk, or other public right-of-way within the city any wall, fence, gate, brick, stone, wood, rock, vegetation, or other structure, material, or substance above the horizontal plane of the existing ground. So this was the existing language that was found both in the city ordinances as well as the UDO. So this was basically saying nothing can be done to improve your right-of-way. There was a lot of confusion. There was grass, trees, and people didn't know that their front yard maybe had portions of right-of-way in it for a long time. So the city has been working on this. So some of the new right-of-way allowances that we're going to be adding to the UDO specifically, we will not be adding everything from the city ordinances into the UDO because it won't be necessary. But the two things that we will be adding is the installation of turf grass on grade. So one thing that will be allowed is, in addition to what is, there's not going to be any hardscapes, but you will be able to include some grasses. So you can put some grass in front of your area or in your home. The next one is going to be in residential areas without off-street parking. They are allowed to improve 2 parking spaces in front of their home in the right-of-way, and there are standards that will be outlined with that. So it's, you know, you can do some pavers or bricks, and there's different ways to do it. You can do grass if you want, but you can also put a border of some wood on it if you want around, just to make it a functional parking pad. But it will have to remain open to the public. You cannot, you know, reserve those for your own private use. So those are the two that came out of the right-of-way ordinance that was just adopted that will be affecting the UDO exactly. So I just wanted to bring those to you because I know that this was in the news and people have been watching this very closely. Like I said, it happened on the 9th and the packets were due on the 10th, so we didn't have enough time to get the language and have it really spelled out for you. I wanted to make sure it was correct. So that's just the overview of what's to come. But if there's any questions, of course, I'm happy to help.
And I just say for everyone, this is coming to us next month, correct?
That's correct,
So
yes.
let's make note to look at that section already as it exists in the UDO so that we can see the new, when we get the new language, we'll be ready to discuss that when it comes forward to
That's
us,
correct.
right?
And yes, and what is on this, and if you'd like, I can send this excerpt if you'd like.
That'd be great, please.
Sure.
Anyone have any questions for Mo on that? Been a long time coming for that, so thank you. We appreciate that. We'll watch for that for next month then. All right, we will move on to other business. Does anyone have items of other business they would want to bring forward tonight? Hearing none, then let's move on to our announcements. I know we have some of those. Mo, we'll let you start with that.
Thank you, and I just wanted to let everyone know, and hopefully those listening from home, our next listening and public input sessions for the comprehensive plan are going to be next Wednesday in the morning from 9 to 11:30. There will be a walking tour. There are two routes. There's going to be one that goes through the kind of the midtown area of North Howell Street, and also going through the waterfront area through the yacht basin and up through some of the historic portions of the district, of the proposed historic district. So if you were not able to make those, there is also going to be a listening session and a small round table discussion session same day on that Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m., and that'll be here at the community building. So please, if you can, take a late lunch if you're working. Come and just, give us some information. You don't have to stay the whole time. Best you can be there. That'd be amazing. We'd love to have you, and I hope to see as many people as possible. So that's what I have.
And I continue to say, we have two, myself and Chris Jones are on that steering committee, but I really like for everybody to get involved in these speaking, these visioning, these listening sessions. Let these folks know we don't have to hold back until it comes to us later down the road. Get involved in that now. I'd love for everybody to be involved in that. Couple things that are other things that are going on next Tuesday is the Green Growth Toolbox Workshop. That's at the Pender County Library. That starts at 9:30, and I believe I'm the lone wolf signed up for that. We do have the steering committee then, for the green growth. You're going? Excellent. I like it. Thank you. All right, Fred and I will be going to that. The Comp Plan Steering Committee is on the 21st at 5:30 at the Nash Street Substation. And then on the 22nd in Wilmington, to help us further add to our knowledge base, the School of Government's Legislative Zoning Workshop is being held in Wilmington. And we have two going to that, you and I again. We had three others that had to withdraw for that. So we got a lot going on in the next week or so. We'll be meeting ourselves coming and going here. Any other announcements? Anybody? All right, excellent. As always, at the back of your packets is the attendance chart and the board roster. It closes out for you. And so I'll say now, with no other business, can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Thank you, Will, and a second. Thank you, Fred. Motion is on the floor. Any final discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Don't say it. All right, folks, thank you so much. Motion passes unanimously, and we are adjourned at 7:43. Thank you so much.